This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome. On today's podcast clip, we have Professor Billy Sung from Curtin University, Perth, Australia. I think what's really kind of cool, so obviously you're based at University of Queensland, but in Brisbane there's naturally a whole host of different universities. We've only got 3 in South Australia, and 2 of them, it's almost a certainty will become one. By the time this podcast is released, it's almost going to be legislated by the state government, no doubt. We have both parties in our state now agreeing to it, Liberal and Labor, so 99.9% likely it's going ahead now.
Yes.
Yeah. So that seemed to give you a lot of opportunities working in a state that had multiple universities, just from an outsider's perspective. That seemed to be quite something you benefited from.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So I think what was really interesting is, you see this term on people's academic CVs, and you see it sometimes in media articles or whatever, adjunct research fellow or adjunct. There's some sort of connection there with the university. Did you just want to explain to, I guess me, I have a general sense, but maybe everyone else, what that kind of means, what it entails, how did you kind of get that position, those sorts of things?
So I'm an adjunct research fellow in the Mental Health Institute at Griffith University, and that was largely because of the work that I have done during my PhD as a research assistant, then a senior research assistant, and kind of like a project manager at the same institute with Professor Wendy Moyle there. We were actually doing work that totally is not even relevant to what I do right now and what I was doing in my PhD. We were doing testing robotics on people with dementia. So and also technology usage with people with dementia and alternative treatments, so on and so forth. What's interesting is how I end up with an adjunct research fellow. So an adjunct research fellow is generally an affiliation where when we call adjunct affiliation, that means that is just a affiliation that is recognized, or it's a kind of like a recognized association for affiliation for an individual, but that are not compensated in any way. So they're not compensated in salary, so on and so forth. And so generally adjunct research fellow or adjunct professors, so on and so forth, they are basically just given a role that is, or an affiliation that is, or a position that is, aligns with their skill set. So at that time, when I finished off my PhD and I moved to Curtin Mental Health Institute, and Professor Wendy Moyle was really generous in the sense that, hey, Billy, do you want to be an adjunct research fellow? That means at Griffith, you are recognized as a research fellow, which is the next step after your PhD. But this is an unpaid role. So you have access to, Griffith library, Griffith system. You could even have, if you do work on site on Griffith, you can have access to, swipe card access, so on and so forth. Generally entails, giving you office space, and basically they're given to people that are, in close collaboration and partnership with a research team. So that's how I kind of got the adjunct research fellow kind of position in Griffith. I still keep it because we actually still do quite a bit of work. So now I bring the more unique kind of side, like I'm bringing the multidisciplinary kind of dimension where I'm going, hey, look, people with dementia are also consumers or can be consumers. Here are some of the consumer side of things, ways in which we conduct consumer surveys. So for instance, in nursing and health, they are very much, paper and pencil. So they will go into like a hospital or a care facility and do data collection. Whereas for us, I go, well, we could actually do consumer panels. You could recruit people with, that diagnosed with early dementia, although it's a very hard to reach population in consumer panels, but you could. Or aging population, that is an easier to reach consumer panel. And I think they really benefit, or they really appreciate kind of that skill set that I bring along. And also because of a lot of the work that we have been doing, I was actually a part of a NHMRC funded project when I was at Griffith. There was also other, grant project that I was on. And so for the continuity of those work and kind of that research capability, I got that adjunct research fellow, and lucky enough, I still get recognized for the adjunct research fellow position right now. Because it's funny, because I always go back to Wendy and say, Wendy, I'm not actually doing much apart from, maybe publishing 1 or 2 papers, maybe jumping on a call every now and then, and maybe presenting once remotely every year. Is that enough? And she always say, no, that's actually more than enough in comparison to other adjunct research fellows.
So are you co-supervising with students there, or?
No, so because they're in the nursing school, so they're very focused on, there is really the clinical nursing stream. There is that kind of people with dementia kind of nursing perspective as well. And still there's PhD students that are doing like computer science in those centers. But in some sense, no, I'm not co-supervising at all with Griffith University.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you're not like salaried to the Griffith University or in particular that center. Is there any financial benefit there at all? Like, do you get professional development funds if you do publish with their name, or do they, given you're in Western Australia and they're in Queensland, do they fly you over to help, with training or any of the other things that you just mentioned? Do they do anything like that?
No, so generally adjunct positions most of the time will not have any of even those financial incentive. So it's really a researcher going, or a researcher in a different institute going, okay, well, my research workload, I'm allocated to a research workload. Part of it, I'm going to contribute it to this other entity or other research team that I collaborate often with, and so I accept that as the adjunct research fellow.
So I guess, does that mean there are other secondary benefits then if it's not primarily through financial or resource-based? And what I mean by that is it a good thing to have on your CV or your LinkedIn to say, I'm an adjunct research fellow at, this university, and this university is globally recognized? I think it's a wonderful thing. So I'm just trying to scope out the pros and cons of it, I suppose.
Yes, so definitely. So in the academia world, adjunct position, especially adjunct research fellowship and adjunct professorship, are extremely highly regarded, or they have at least an esteem factor on it. In some sense, it also shows that you are valued by another university, and that your skill set is, I guess, appreciated by another university or research entity. And so I think more so the adjunct positions are really esteem-based, and that's why I'm also quite appreciative. So I got it when I finished my PhD, and I still have it. And so a lot of the time, a lot of professors, a lot of researchers would like to get an adjunct position, but it does actually requires someone in that research organization to say, yes, I can attest that to that, Billy, if he was here at Griffith, he is able to contribute to that level, and therefore we'll provide him an adjunct research fellowship or adjunct professorship.
Oh, okay. That's making a lot more sense to me now. That's like, it's like an esteemed position, somewhat prestigious, and an acknowledgement of your peers. It's like almost like an independent, very verified, very public association with you. That then, does your own university in Curtin, do they value that you are externally? Do they value this?
That is a good question, but in some sense, I would say they will value it because of accreditation. As you probably know, most business school goes through accreditation process. So in the accreditation process, one of the questions is how many staff demonstrate the esteem factor of your staff, and basically these are the things that they will list. Well, we have one staff that's an adjunct research fellow in Griffith University, another one in Harvard University, and so on and so forth. Yeah,
that's some great insight. So, given the fact that the university can then say, we have Billy, and Billy is valued externally through this, adjunct research fellow position. Does that then help with your promotion applications? Because, I mean, you've been promoted from PhD all the way through to, professor in what I think is a remarkably short amount of time. So I'm just wondering if this is one of the key things that you're like, did this help you in your journey, do you think?
To be honest, whether it's a key factor, I wouldn't say so. Would it be one of the driving factors? Possibly, because you could really say, hey, look, my skill sets and my value is recognized by another research institution, and it is kind of like a peer review kind of process. Like that's another university in Australia that actually recognizes that. So it does have I guess a influence, but I wouldn't say that it's a make or break for a promotional document, because there are professors where they have a long list of adjunct positions, and sometimes it could be 15 or 20 of them, and you sometimes question like, oh, so what do you actually do in all of these 20 research institution? And more so it's just because this person might spend 3 or 4 days a year, and that's how normally it's organized, because you're in very good collaboration or very close collaboration. You sometimes spend 3 or 4 days or even a week or 2 weeks at that research institution every year. So it is much easier it is esteemed to be recognized in that way, but also it is easier logistically and operationally to have you as an adjunct, so that you don't have to swipe people in to the office, so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whenever we have visitors here, it's a logistical nightmare. That's for sure.
Hey guys, it's Zac Anesbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zac Anesbury. That is ZACANESBURY for my take on the marketing issues of the day.
That was the Zac Anesbury Show.